Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction pod. Consider this your stoppage time as we review the second leg of Bayern versus Lazio in the Champions League. I am your host, Sean McIntosh, joined by my co-host, Caleb Adams. Caleb, I got to say, I can't remember feeling this bummed out after a result as I do right now. How are you feeling?
Nah, I am feeling the same as you. Maybe not as bad as you, since this is a childhood club, but I'm feeling down bad. I think the I think what makes it worse, it makes it hurt more, is that this game was absolutely winnable. Like we had good spells, and we'll get into those, but I think that's what makes it so much worse. It's one thing to just get smacked throughout the entire game. It's another thing to actually have some good passages of play, some good energy, intensity, and to lose the way that we did.
Yep, it is the hope that kills you, and I tried to guard my heart as the best I possibly could going into even into the first leg. I was
Yeah,
hoping that we would just make something of the second leg. That the first one, I just wanted to be able to watch a second match and hope
yeah,
that there
yeah.
was something to play for, and we did that. But I got to be honest, I was a little hopeful. I thought that we could have done something special, but here we are. So let's jump into our recap before we hash out all of these feelings. This one from the starting 11, we were very surprised by the insertion of Pellegrini. For those that tuned in to our last episode, Mark from Toronto Club, Lazio Toronto Club, and myself, we said we would have loved to have seen Pellegrini get another shot, but we were pretty much confident in Sadi not giving that opportunity, and so we were pretty happy to see him get the opportunity. We believed it sent a message on two fronts. One, that Pellegrini was an important player, and that Sadi had confidence in him and didn't want to ruin his confidence. And secondly, that we were going to go out there and try to play with Bayern a little bit, and we would need players that were of the attacking mindset. So Vecino took the regista spot over Cataldi, which I'll be honest, I wasn't entirely thrilled with. I wanted Cataldi in from the start, just because of his ability to play a little bit of a quicker ball and initiate the attack. But I thought in a match like this, Vecino, certainly you'd want to see him at some point. I just wasn't quite sure if starting was the right move. And look, this one started in the first 15 minutes with Lazio being the better team. Certainly a couple cracks at the net from Bayern early on, but nothing that really tested Provedel. Lazio finding a ton of space really to operate. I thought Felipe Anderson in particular and Gendouzi, just nice combination between those two. And and then in the 37th minute, Lazio would find themselves with the biggest opportunity for themselves in the match, when a deflected cross lands nicely to a darting and diving Ciro Immobile, who simply misses a wide open opportunity, which we'll talk about what that miss meant in the larger scheme of things. But 2 minutes later, Harry Kane finds the back of the net with I'll say a fairly pedestrian header, in which Provedel probably should have done better. And then 2 minutes after that, there was a nice attack between on Lazio's side, Gendouzi attempting to dink the ball over the keeper, just goes wide and completely misses it. And then in stoppage time in the first half, In the 47th minute, Mueller gets a fantastic header off of what initially was thought to be a De Ligt wonder goal, but De Ligt strikes it nicely, and Mueller, the legend that he is, just cleverly fox in the box finds his head in there. So we're now down 2-0 at half. Subs in the first half, 61st minute, you see Cataldi being inserted for Vecino, Isaacson for Zaccagni, and Totti on for Ciro Immobile. 5 minutes later, Harry Kane with his second, essentially a tap-in effort after a Provedel parry. Doesn't go wide enough. And, we have maybe our final last chance of the match, 73rd minute, Luis Alberto with a decent chance, but ultimately blocked, deflected wide for a corner. We end up seeing the insertion of Pedro for Felipe and Kamada for Luis, but essentially the match plays out from there at a final score of 3-0 to see the aggregate at 3-1, bowing out to Bayern Munich. Caleb, what are your 3 words to describe this one?
Crumble under pressure. I think you also sent me a text actually saying crumble itself. You said, now we crumble, if I'm quoting that correctly, after we conceded the first goal. And sure enough, we did, unfortunately.
We're looking for sponsorship, so if Crumble wants to sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really, to be fair, in this game, after that first goal, we actually kept playing. I was afraid that we would sit back, but we actually kept playing, kept pressing high. I think that second goal is a really completely destroyed our will there. Right before the half, brutal.
Yeah, I had missed chance costs, and it's interesting. We lose 3-0, and some might find it harsh to say, well, how are you going to play, right, 3-0 and you're looking at one missed opportunity. But, this Lazio side is just, for many, many years, just been a fragile side, and it's been tough to navigate through adversity. And when things go against them, they find it difficult to refocus and stick to their game plan. And, this one is frustrating as ever because, again, first 15 minutes, Lazio looked the better side. And now anybody with half a brain knew and would expect that not to hold up for a full 90 minutes. But you see a Lazio that came to play and, found some space and did well. I thought did well to handle Bayern attacks, did well to take the space in attack when presented the opportunity. And we knew there wouldn't be a ton of chances in this, but when Ciro Immobile, the player that you want to see on the end of a chance, finds that one opportunity, and he's just, man, it's tough. I think that one moment changes everything. Clearly going up 2-0 on aggregate now places a whole hell of a lot of pressure on Bayern. And in typical Lazio fashion, no different than we saw against Milan, a missed chance and then minutes later conceding just sends his team into a tailspin. And to make matters worse, right before half, to go into the locker room, not even giving Sadi an opportunity maybe to calm them down, refocus them. They concede in what essentially buries this one. And it boils down for me when we talk about the keys of the match or the moments to that Cheeto miss, as harsh as it is. Caleb, am I being harsh? I mean, how do you see it?
No, I know. For you to say something like that, I think definitely demonstrates just the magnitude of that miss, because we're all big Cheeto fans. You may be the biggest Cheeto fan. But I've been critical of Cheeto this season. I think maybe all of us, but I feel like I've been a little more critical of him than most fans are. But I think this is the reason that he was rested against Milan. Is for a moment like that. We get that moment, and the history that he has with the club, the the magnitude of the moment, that is a moment where you're like, man, if we can just get one chance for Cheeto in this game, a good opportunity, like that, who do we want on the end of that, right? If we get one chance, who do we want on the end of it? Do we want Sakanya on the end of it? No. Do we want Felipe on the end of it? No. Do we want Alberto on the end? We want Cheeto on the end of it. He did get the end of it. And that goal completely changes the match 100%. It changes everything. And yeah, I mean, it's.
And it doesn't take away, like, make no mistake. I know, right? This doesn't take away who Cheeto is and what he's done for this, but we try to be fair, and it's just he's got to do better against or when given those types of opportunities, and again, it ultimately changed everything. Now, the players behind him have to do better to not allow that to affect them, and you want to see a side that maybe takes that and fuels themselves and says, look, there are chances. This game is open. We're going to find more opportunities. Cheeto, head up. Like, we got you. We're going to provide some more service. But again, conceding, missing on a couple of those assignments and conceding the way that we did, just, yeah, I mean, tough. So
let me follow that up with this question. I'm not saying this because of one moment in Champions League. I'm saying this because we're more than 2/3 into the season. How confident are you feeling about Cheeto being the guy for us next season and stuff like that?
Look, I mean, not confident at all. I mean, and that's doesn't go down as any source. I mean, he's 34 years old. He's approaching 35. Like, that's just the nature of this thing. He simply is at a different stage in his career. That's all. We still see moments in which he is a fantastic striker. He just is not capable of doing it for 90 minutes, match in and match out. And look, he's always missed chances. And let's not pretend like Erling Haaland this past weekend against United missed, a disastrous opportunity that wasn't a quote unquote easy goal, right? Even the best of them are going to have those moments. So, by no means am I ever going to label a player based on, one or two moments, because look at the body of work tells you he is an elite striker and has been. But again, given his age, his injuries, that to me is the concern, and I think it is the time that I think he should stay at the club as long as he wants. I'll be honest about that. But yeah, I mean, we need to be finding that player to replace him. And I don't know that Tati is that. But yeah, look, let's start diving into some performances then, and we'll start on the positive. Who for you stood out as your player of the match?
I thought we were quite good down that right-hand side in general. So I could have gone with Guendouzi. I think I could have gone with Felipe. I think maybe those are the only two I think in contention, in my opinion. I'm going to go with Felipe. I thought Felipe was pretty flawless today. I would say the only sort of knack was creating some more clear opportunities for us. At the end of the day, he's a winger. That's what he has to do. That's what he's getting paid to do, is to create chances for us. But I thought we had a lot of moments in transition where he received the ball, and where there was a little shimmy, a little fake, he immediately beat that first guy off the press, and that allowed us to get in transition. And he was at the end of that a lot. He was easily our best playmaker this game. Maybe the only attacker that showed up this game. And yeah, he looked like prime Felipe. It was really fun to watch. When Felipe is at his best, he's super, super fun to watch. So silky, so sharp. And I hope we get to see this Felipe outside of Champions League and league play as well. But Felipe for me was player of the match.
Yeah, he was my man of the match, and for all the reasons you said. I mean, I'll highlight just a moment that I texted you about that really impressed me, and but not necessarily even a moment that most are going to look at and place on a resume or a highlight reel, certainly. But I just thought it really showed his maturity in a match like this. And it was 21st minute. He cuts off a poor pass from Bayern and steals the ball. And he, in a lot of matches, Felipe might move at 100 miles an hour and just quickly look to advance the ball, but he makes a dribble, he stops, he picks his head up, assesses the situation, and just realizes, one, there's nobody making any runs, and so he smartly kind of baits Kane into taking him down for a foul. And I just thought, particularly at that point in the match, last thing you want to do is do anything foolish, turn the ball over quickly. And I thought it was a damn near flawless match from him, both defensively and in the work that he does, but in particular the attack. I mean, he was taking guys on, he was beating folks. I mean, I just thought he was dangerous in so many phases of the game, and it's really unfortunate to waste a Felipe Anderson performance like that, because generally when Felipe is playing as well as he did today, that kind of unlocks others around him. And my shout out for that second player would also be Guendouzi. I think the Guendouzi, again, always just everywhere, runs 100 miles an hour, did so well to cover a ton of ground, his pressing. I thought he was really strong in just combining with Felipe early to create some chances. The problem with him today was just the final product in a couple of those moments was lacking. That's just kind of how and who he is as a player. But I think those were by far the standouts. And in a match against Bayern Munich, you really have to play damn near perfect. And unfortunately, now shifting to our Bidone talk, too many players underperformed, and again, it's really disappointing because Felipe Anderson, I thought, just did so much, and we had some moments. So who was your Bidone?
Providel for me. I didn't have to think about it. I mean,
let's talk about it. Right, we talk about the first goal that we give up to Harry Kane. Providel, I mean, he's there. It's a save to be had. Third goal then he gives up is one in which, again, I think what he's been struggling with this year is his rebounds and pairing those out wider. He seems to be struggling and pairing them at an angle in front of the attack. This was another instance. I give a slight blame. We had this debate, but I thought Marusic probably should have done a little bit better. He just doesn't even notice that Kane is making a run behind him. He's got to be a little bit more aware to look over his shoulder to see that a dangerous player like Kane is there. So first the mistake by Providel, but there's absolutely no way that we can even make up for that mistake if defenders aren't in position to help. So I thought he's a good shout. I had three very clear candidates, all I think deserving for different reasons. Providel, obviously, two chances, two goals that he was just poor on. I think Ciro Immobile deserves for just maybe unfair in that one moment. We need him to be better, and then I think a player just in the flow of the game, if I'm looking at just the total product, who just kind of was just sucked our attack dry from any sort of positivity, and there was I thought Vecino was pretty bad. Especially when you look at some of the positive stuff that we were doing early on and the space that we were finding, the combination between players, and we were moving up the field, it seemed to all die with Vecino. And then, what you kind of hope from him is to provide a little bit more defensive stability. He was getting burned. I mean, he was just being dribbled past and provided nothing on that front. So I thought maybe that was a substitution that should have happened a little bit quicker, but I thought he was pretty poor. So he was probably my just kind of run of play who the poorest performer was this
No, I agree.
but I think who would get the award for Bidon. I think Provedel is probably right. Now I will also say this, because I've seen some absurd, obviously every fan base is like this, but like people overreact, right? So I'm sure you'll see the Ciro Immobile out, like he's got to go. I saw some Twitter messages about Provedel. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys, like this guy was the keeper of the year. He's still, by and large, this year, I think there's probably only one keeper in Jan Sommer that's been better than him. Like Provedel hasn't been as good as he was last year, but he's also saved our asses in plenty of these matches. But this was one where it wasn't one mistake; it was a couple from him that he's got to do better on.
Yeah, and you talk about moments, right? Chiro had that massive miss. But what if Provedel makes that save on the other side, right? Completely different game too. Still 0-0. Still 0-0. We have momentum. Provedel's hype. He made that save. The team's hype. They're all swarming him. A little energy, more confidence for Provedel. I actually think that him not getting to that ball, because it was like kind of drizzled into there. I think that also affected him for the rest of the game. I think it completely changes the game if he saves that. Vecino too, my goodness, was a black hole in the offense. And the commentator said one thing. They said, one of the commentators said, Saudi's teams are renowned for being difficult to play through, but Bayern are just playing right through them. Vecino was a big part of that. I also mentioned as well that I do think playing Alberto and Pellegrini on the same side is also a mistake. That's a Saudi thing. But I don't think it was game costing. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Provedel and Immobile, because these are two positions that are the most difficult to play, but also have the highest stakes involved.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the most obvious when you make a mistake, right? As a midfielder, most people coming out of this game are probably not talking about Vecino.
Right.
You're talking about Ciro Immobile. The highlights, we're going to, unfortunately, for every Ciro hater out there, we're going to be seeing highlights of this miss. And, Provedel, obviously, you can see the highlights, and there's little margin for error versus a Vecino, obviously, who thought stunk it up, is not necessarily going to be the scapegoat for this. But, yeah, I think the difference here is simply, and we've talked about this squad this season, is we don't have a lot of difference makers. And when we need something to happen this year, we simply don't have somebody that can make something happen. And, this is not the same Ciro as years past. That player buries that, and we're up 2-0 and everything is different. We don't have a Milinkovic-Savic that can just pull something out of nothing and find a head on a goal, and we just don't have that anymore. And even Luis Alberto, it's a different player this year, and he's not the same. And it's tough, because this was a Bayern team that was there for the taking. I mean, like, this is not a Bayern squad that's flying on all cylinders, and it was a Lazio team even this. With all of our struggles, I mean, I thought we were set up. I love the mentality. I love the approach that they took to this one, and it was really up until the 39th minute where a costly mistake changes everything. So where do we go from here, Caleb? I think who knows when we'll see Champions League action again. That's the other bummer in all of this that really has me depressed, is the odds of us getting back into this tournament next year are slim to none. We're ninth in the table, 40 points. Even if Serie A gets a fifth Champions League spot, which unfortunately we didn't help ourselves with any favors there in terms of the European coefficient. We are now knocked out of this tournament. So that doesn't help the case for 5, but even should every other Serie A team perform well in European competitions, and we do see ourselves awarded with a 5th Champions League spot. Currently, our neighbors next door, Roma, at 47 points in fifth. So 7 points there. We are still scheduled to play them, so an opportunity to make up some ground, but we may not see this tournament for a couple of years. And really, if I'm looking, because I'm checked out, you tell me if you think that there's any hope in league play for Champions League spots. But really, for me, this season all comes down to Coppa Italia, and so April 2nd against Juventus in the first leg of Coppa Italia semifinals. Really, that's the only hope for anything positive. Is that a bleak outlook, or is that simply the reality, Caleb?
You asked me, I don't know if it was last episode, but the one before that, if I gave us a shot, we're going to be in the contention, or there's no chance. I said no chance. That remains. I think that with the personnel under Sadi, we've been waiting all season for this turnaround, right? It hasn't come. Whether there's fault across the board, players, Sadi, there's fault across the board. The percentage of that, I don't know what it is, but at the rate we're going at right now, I just don't see us. I'm looking at the table. I'm seeing who's above us right now. We have Fiorentina, we have Napoli, who are resurging, coming back up. Atalanta, who've also been on a bit of a stretch themselves. Roma, who since their coaching change have gone, I think in their past 5 games, league games, they have won 4 and lost 1. That loss was against Inter. I just don't see any of us. I just don't see us at all in that contention. And some people may argue, okay, we sack Sadi tomorrow. Could a new manager come in and give us a bump to start fighting for that? Maybe. However, if we're going with the route of, hey, just get rid of him to get rid of him before the season ends, and we don't have that guy lined up, Sadi's sticking around.
Yeah, we don't need we don't need a bump. That's not going to do anything. We are so far out of it. I mean, it's going to take a collapse from the 5 teams ahead of us, plus us, playing perfect to close out this season.
Are you saying out of Champions League or out of European soccer overall? Out of Champions League for sure. We're done.
Out of Champions League, European. I mean, look, I'm just thinking Champions League. For me, it's if a coaching change is going to take place, because yes, you can have the new manager in season bump, but what is that going to do for us? Not enough, probably. And I don't want to make a coaching change right now just for the sake of it. Ride it out through this season and then make a determination. Obviously, Sadi has something for the team to play for this year, and that's his job, to show that he can at least fix it in a way, or show us that we can figure it out. And if not, they just need to start working on lining up who that person is that's going to take this project over completely. I don't want an in-season temporary manager. We need somebody that is going to take this project over.
Let me ask you this. Would you want to bring? You said yes. Don't bring a manager mid-season. We'll figure it out in summer. But would you want a manager to come in and start working on that already, on that philosophy and game plan, if one is lined up, assuming that is the case?
If this is the person that's our coach for our manager for next year, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, the people that we would want are not available right now. So, so don't just give it to the next in line for a month, and then we take half of a summer to find who that manager is, and then we're just late on everything. I think they can start analyzing and start making a decision on Sadi, and at this point of the year they should already know what they want to do, and then they need to start making sure that they have somebody lined up. But for me, it's why make a change if it's not for the person that is going to be our manager long term. So Yeah, I think yeah, we have one tournament to play for right now, and that's it. It's Coppa Italia. That changes the outlook of a season. We've seen it plenty times before. In fact, it always seems to be that we win Coppa Italia in the midst of our worst Serie A performances. So if history is any indication, now we are playing Juve, and we have a mental block against them, but anything can happen in a tournament like that. So we'll be very happy with a trophy, and we are still alive in one competition, and ultimately walking out with silverware is what matters. So Lazio Udinese, another midweek fixture on Monday at our time, 3:45 Eastern Standard Time in the United States, but it is a Monday fixture. We'll be here to cover it, and if anything, it'd just be nice to see Lazio turn in a run of positive performances. After that, it's Frosinone before we face Juve in back-to-back matches. So league play in Coppa Italia. So yeah, but we'll be here to cover it. Follow us on social media, available on all platforms. Please subscribe to this channel on YouTube. And if you don't like seeing us, we are available on audio platforms, your Spotify's, your Apple's. Give us a 5-star rating. It does go a long way in helping this podcast grow. We appreciate it. Tough one for us. Proud of the effort, though. Make no mistake about it. We went into Bayern and stood toe to toe for a good 40 minutes, and proud of the effort in walking out of this one, despite a 3-1 aggregate. Again, we beat this side at home, and so nothing but pride. As disappointed as we are, it is sempre Forza Lazio.